Have you ever noticed how young boys don't let girls play with their trucks and dinosaurs? Or have you seen a girl being told that pink is only for girls? And lastly, have you ever seen a young girl being called a boy just because she's not wearing a skirt and cute shirts? Well, we have and do see it every day, and even though it has been changing in a positive way in recent years, there is a long way to go. That's why we decided to create our new children's book, the Genderless Handbook. This book will be targeted at age groups from 5 to 9 years old. And with this book, we hope to educate and teach both the parents and the child about how harmful and common these gender thoughts and structures are to childhood and gender equality. Through using a combination of real stories and engaging questions, we want to help the children understand what it's like to be treated differently from their peers because of their gender and how they can help stop that from happening. The Genderless Handbook will be an interactive collection of 10 stories that allow the child to hear about the troubles of gender discrimination while allowing them to see the situations from their point of view and how it will affect them.
As an example of some of these stories that will be included, we have the story of Gulab. Gulab is a young girl that lives in Rajasthan, India. Her father originally did not wish for his daughter to receive an education, but since she was gifted a bike to get to and from school, her father has changed his mind and now supports his daughter's future. With this story, we want to show a child that even doing one small thing can make a big difference on the situation of another. We will teach this through asking the child what is one thing they could do to help a classmate or a friend of the opposite sex. Another representative story we included is the story of Claire and Jacob. Claire and Jacob are young children from Midwest America. When playing together, Jacob wanted to use Claire's play kitchen and vacuum cleaner, but Claire and their dad wouldn't let him because kitchens and vacuums are for girls and using those would make Jacob less manly. This made Jacob feel sad that he was being left out of the fun, but his dad told him not to cry. We would then engage the children by asking them how this would make them feel to be left out just because they were a boy or a girl.
In order to make sure that this book is educational and accurate, we plan on working with both child psychologists and teachers from various backgrounds in order to ensure that the correct language is being used and the information is portrayed in a child-friendly way. When it comes to acquiring funding for the book, we plan on fundraising through various means, including social media promotion and fundraising, as well as working with activist organizations who want to invest and who share in our goals for gender equality. Approaching distribution, we will work with elementary and primary schools in order to include our book in their school book fairs, as well as working with family-centered influencers to promote our book both globally and online. We will also continue to work with the aforementioned child psychologists and teachers in order to grow our book distribution in the family space. Finally, when measuring the effectiveness of our book, we want to include a QR code in the back of the book that will link to a website with a survey for the parents and teachers to give feedback on the book and how it helped them teach their children. This website will also include more in-depth versions of the stories and images to accompany them so the adults can help answer any questions that the children may have about the stories.
Now that you understand what our book is about and how we will go about making it, we want to wrap it up by talking about what we hope to accomplish with our book. While we understand that one book isn't going to change everything or solve every issue, we have to make the first step in the right direction. Through our book, we want to improve and help achieve the gender equality goals as stated by the United Nations in their Sustainable Development Goals. Our book will make these complex world issues approachable and understandable to the people who have the biggest potential to change these things, the children. We think that by working with the next generation of children, we can make everyday situations more positive for all and help reduce the systemic gender inequality and differences.
And finally, to end our presentation, we have an endorsement from one of the psychologists we work with.
When we approached you, what were your initial thoughts on our venture?
Was a great start, and I could see that there was some real passion behind the ideas that you came up with.
We know that you deal with a lot of children who are bullied for not always fitting the gender norms. Do you think this book will help those kids on both sides of the conflict?
Yes, I think that this book will help the children approach those common situations in a new way that will allow them to better understand what they and others go through.
When we came to you with the idea of wanting to use stories about children from around the globe, what were your thoughts?
I thought that using global stories was a great idea because it allows kids to see how both sexes go through these problems everywhere in the world and how they are experienced at all different levels. It starts to open the kids' eyes up to the rest of the world in a healthy and educational way.
To conclude, now that you have heard from one of our supporters and heard our pitch in its totality, we want to bring it all back to where we started. With our book's purpose being previously stated as being based in the United Nations' fifth Sustainable Development Goal of gender equality, our goal is to help eliminate some of the created gendered systems that are presented to children at an early age. By investing in our book and helping us reach our goals, you will be promoting a more equal world for little boys and girls around the globe.
Your investment would directly contribute to making sure little girls know it's okay to play in the mud and making sure little boys know they can play with things like kitchens and dolls without being bullied for their toys. We feel that with your contribution, we can create a world where children are raised and treated the same, regardless of their gender or background, by both the adults and fellow children they interact with. Thank you very much.